A Saturday without cartoons. Saturday, December 17th, 1983. It's Saturday morning and I just woke up to the frigid embrace of a second treacherous winter day. The house has turned very cold overnight after approximately 24 hours without the benefit of heat or electricity. I'm practically paralyzed here. I've stayed in bed listening to constant news and weather reports from KOTN on the transistor radio and doing whatever I can to avoid an onset of hypothermia. The weekend crew has taken over at KOTN with the occasional visit from some of the normal weekday hosts. A spokesman for Arkansas Power and Light will be giving a telephone interview in about 15 minutes to give us some estimate of how much longer we will have to huddle helplessly in our cold and darkened houses. There are a select few who have somehow managed to retain a semblance of a normal existence. Terry Childers, for instance, still has power at his house. I can't imagine how that happened since his neighborhood is absolutely crowded with trees. As we've learned, ice-covered trees don't get along very well with electrical lines. But the ordinary laws of nature apparently don't apply in young Master Childers' neighborhood. The radio is coming back from a commercial now. Let's see if there is any good news to be heard.
Mary Nell got a call in during the break announcing that today's meeting of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers has been cancelled. That meeting has been rescheduled for the first week in January. Also, the post office has announced that there will be no mail delivery in Pine Bluff today. The National Weather Service is calling for a high today of around 40 degrees with additional winter precipitation moving into the state. There will be periods of freezing rain mixed with rain and sleet tonight, and a traveler's advisory remains in effect for the southern half of the state.
Well, they're saying that this entire storm managed to catch the National Weather Service off guard. So why on earth should we listen to them now? How accurate can they possibly be? The forecasters have never been good at predicting winter weather anyway. All my life I have been lured into fits of unbridled excitement whenever the weatherman would predict a big chance of snow sometime during the night. Naturally, I would believe their every word. They are, after all, weathermen. I would wake up the next day and discover only a cold rain falling outside my window. Sometimes not even that much. The weatherman would then sheepishly explain that it had either warmed up more than was expected during the overnight hours, or else the precipitation had taken a different course that left us high and dry but somehow dropped huge amounts of snow over northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas gets all the good ice and snow. One of the most often repeated phrases you will hear in Arkansas weather forecasting is that the rain may change over into some light snow in northern Arkansas before ending tonight. Southern Arkansas can expect just rain. That last sentence bothers me the most. We can expect just rain. Do you have any idea how disappointing that is for a kid like me to hear? This ice storm is a very notable exception to that otherwise steadfast rule.
Before the break, a caller told us that Walmart is out of both kerosene and lamp oil. So if you're venturing out to Walmart for kerosene, you will probably leave empty-handed. Dale's in Town and Country on Dollarway Road still have batteries as far as we know.
I've been listening anxiously for the sounds of Arkansas Power and Light utility repair trucks to come cruising through the neighborhood. So far those trucks are apparently working very far away from us. If we had lights and heat and power, this ice storm could be considered one of the coolest things ever. Instead, everything feels like the day following the outbreak of a nuclear war. I must admit that's sort of cool in its own right. But I'd still rather have electricity. It was an entirely different story at this time last year. Yes, indeed. December 1982 started out with a freak outbreak of killer tornadoes. The community of Alexander, southwest of Little Rock, was absolutely destroyed by one of those tornadoes on December the 2nd.
As you come into Alexander, you can immediately see the storm damage. Matter of fact, there's debris scattered along I-30, southwest of Little Rock, in the area where the storm traveled. Debris in the trees and debris in the median of the interstate.
East Camden got hit the next morning, and that same storm caused us some anxious moments as it came marching towards Pine Bluff.
It's moving to the northeast at 45 miles an hour, so once again it's moving rather rapidly.
Is that pretty generally towards Pine Bluff?
Yes, it looks like, as a matter of fact, it's heading in that general direction. It's hard to say whether the storm's going to hold together with the severity it is right now, but it is heading towards Pine Bluff, and really, just looking at the map here, it puts it only maybe about 50 miles to the southwest of Pine Bluff, so should the storm stay on its present course and its present speed, it'd be in the Pine Bluff area within the hour.
It finally rained itself out before it arrived, but it got pretty scary there for the better part of an hour. On Christmas Eve, another outbreak of tornadoes injured dozens of people across Arkansas. That was an absolutely unseasonable thing to have happen. I remember waking up on Christmas morning. It was so hot that my mom's turkey dressing had spoiled overnight. It was cloudy and humid outside, and it didn't feel like Christmas whatsoever. I was in the living room unwrapping my new telescope and other gifts while I was wearing summer clothes and actually sweating. All of this was followed by days of flooding that swamped houses and closed streets throughout the downtown area. Now, just 1 year later, we're painted with ice. Ain't that a kicker? It's the exact opposite of two nasty extremes.
If you need trees cut or tree limbs removed from your yard, you can call 536-6571. I saw where a large tree had fallen across a house when I was driving in this morning, so tree removal services will be in big demand. That's bringing you up to date here at 8:30 here on a cold and lonely Saturday morning.
I can hear the constant snaps, creaks, cracks, pops and thuds of ice-covered tree limbs toppling onto the hard-frozen ground outside. Every once in a while a very large limb will crash nearby, and my heart will try its best to slip through a tiny space between two of my ribs. You can never tell when one of the massive trees in the yard may topple onto the house without any warning whatsoever. Our two dogs, Toby and Charlie, are in their boxes in the hall, both wrapped in blankets and lost in deep dog sleep. Meanwhile, the phone continues ringing off the hook with relatives complaining about the cold crisis. I'm walking through the house now, occasionally clicking on a light switch just in case the electricity somehow came back on without us being aware of it. Even though I'm dressed in several layers of clothes, I still feel frigid. My hands are both painful and numb at the same time. The stuff in the refrigerator seems to be mostly intact so far. At this point you could probably just leave the door wide open and the food would be just fine. The windows in the living room are frosted over with ice on the inside, and they absolutely radiate cold. I can scratch my initials in the white ice. See? I can hear the transistor radio playing "Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree" back in the bedroom. That is the only other constant sound in the entire house. A brief blaze of sunlight brightens the window and then quickly eases back behind the gloomy veil of clouds. I'm missing my normal Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm experiencing a fit of restless boredom because of it. I'm going outside. I know it's extremely dangerous, but if you can just remember not to let any trees fall on you, everything should be fine. Let me get my coat and boots on.